Hey everybody, welcome back to VDMS. So, continuing series that an analog in your pocket. Are you just happy to see me? What we're doing today is a May Pocket News Roundup. The last Sunday of every month is now going to be dedicated to all the fun things that happened on Analogue Pocket that month. So if you just watch one video, you'll be able to know all the things that have occurred, all the things you should download and try out and test. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But it's been a great May, so let's get right into it and talk about all of the highlights. And right off the top, the Analogizer shipping and getting you analog signals out of your Pocket's cart slot, letting you play on a CRT, PVM, or standard monitor is just absolutely incredible, because Analogue has been absolutely dragging their feet getting any sort of DAC support for the Analogue Pocket. And as much as this is a portable device, they sell a dock to let you play it on your television. And for the most part, a lot of retro gamers want to be able to play these things on CRT televisions because we love getting that old tube TV look out of our FPGA devices. So the developer of this, I will leave a link below, is now selling these. They may still be out of stock, but he makes them in batches. So pay attention and grab one when they come out. You get SNAC controller support, a VGA port carrying almost every single analog signal you could possibly want. Some need adapters. This is just an absolutely incredible product. The fitment of the actual 3D printed case is so good, and this solves a very big problem in my opinion for Analogue Pocket, which is the fact that it was very difficult, if not impossible, to play on a CRT television. And you'll see here pretty much every different video format is supported in one way or another. And again, as good as the Analogue Pocket screen is, and trust me, I think it's incredible, it is fun to have these, and there's more cores in development for this analog out. I will do a video later on next month showing you all the available cores. But honestly, getting something like Neo Geo out of the Analogue Pocket and into my PVM is spectacular. Granted, I have more than one way to do this. I have an original AES, I've got a Mr. FPGA, but now with the Pocket, I can play on my CRT, and if I feel like taking it with me, just unplug it, put it in my bag, and pick up the game basically right where I left off. And that's going to be even better with cores that do have save state support featured as well. But with the dock, you could get the HDMI out, and you could, with some tricks, adapt that over to an analog signal, but it was very messy, and a lot of times it just did not fit on my PVM whatsoever. Now with the Analogizer, you can get that crystal clear RGB video out, or any other video format you want when it's adapted onto your CRT television, your VGA monitor, your PVM, whatever you want. So this is definitely an awesome thing to see. It is a 10 out of 10 recommend for me. It is worth every single penny. Now speaking of Neo Geo, in late March, early April, there was a new core for the overdrive version which upped the CPU speed even greater. So I'm putting this in May news because technically it happened across 2 months. And something like Metal Slug here on original AES hardware, on MVS, or on a standard FPGA core, Mr. FPGA, or the Analogue Pocket port, you would get severe slowdown in this title and a few others. It's just down to some coding problems at SNK and the developers at NASCA that made this thing, and we did have an overclocked core for Analogue Pocket and for Mr. FPGA, but the port developer of this core has upped that even further, getting rid of like 90% of the overall slowdown in the Neo Geo games that do slow down like Metal Slug here. And that is just absolutely incredible to see this continue to get development, because Neo Geo is definitely my favorite arcade system of all time. I've got a large AES collection as well. I love playing these games in every single iteration, but honestly now on the FPGA side of things, that's my preferred way to play something like Metal Slug 2 here. It's just faster, it slows down less, and that means the controls are more responsive, because when this game slows down, it slows down the in-game speed as well, so suddenly it feels like you're playing the title in slow motion. I played the entirety of the Metal Slugs that slowed down on my Analogue Pocket on the new overdrive core, which still is manual installation as the recording of this video, and I'd say like 90 to 95% of all of the slowdown on Neo Geo titles like Metal Slug 2 have been completely fixed up by this new core evolution, and that is great to see. Even in 2024, Neo Geo is getting a lot more love, a lot more improvements, and that makes everybody happy. So if you haven't looked into the overdrive cores for the Neo Geo yet on the Analogue Pocket, now is the time to definitely check that out. Now, we mentioned earlier in the month as well, the Simpsons core has gone public. That means you no longer need to be a Hotego beta member to be able to get the key to make these games work on your Analogue Pocket. Obviously, the leading title is going to be The Simpsons Arcade because absolutely everyone knows, loves, and remembers this. Just be aware that if you want to play any of the variants of this, like the 2-player version where you can select your character, you do need to add those manually to your Analogue Pocket. It doesn't seem like any of the downloaders are bringing across those variant versions, and I got a lot of comments asking how to play that version of the game, so now you know. But of course, this isn't the only game on the core. Something like Proteus here, I'm always advocating for more people to play this if they never have. Getting an FPGA implementation of this game is incredible as well because it's another expensive arcade board. It's another shmup that is a ton of fun. It's got so much charm and color, and it is working so incredibly well here on the Analogue Pocket, so definitely check this one out on the Simpsons core as well. I think you're going to find it a ton of fun. There are still a few little bugs that need to be ironed out though, just be aware of that. But I think my personal favorite game on the core has got to be Vendetta. I absolutely love a beat 'em up game, especially one that comes from Konami, and this one has that classic late 80s, early 90s cop buddy movie vibe going on here. You've got the street gang that you need to beat, and it's got some good violence as well as a lot of different fun moves, like being able to punch your opponent when they're on the ground. And this is one that I feel like maybe not everyone has played before. Pretty much everyone has seen and played the Simpsons arcade game. A ton of people know about Proteus, but something like Vendetta I feel like is a little bit of a deeper cut. But that's the fun part about something like Analogue Pocket and all these cores. You don't just get the best game on an arcade board, you get all of the other games that ran on it as well. And this is one of those classic games where you can totally cheese the boss and stunlock him in the corner if you are smart. So definitely check out Vendetta. I can't recommend it enough, and all 3 of these games should be coming down with your updaters today. So definitely play them, they are a ton of fun. And speaking of Hotego, there's been more games added to the Namco System 1 core as well. Something like Pac-Land here, an isometric Pac-Man that looks like pseudo 3D is working. And this core got a ton of games added to it in April and in May, and that is always fun to see. And I love this little vignette here of all the ghosts chasing Pac-Man down. Namco made a ton of fun arcade games back in the day, and while this board may be most famously known for playing Splatterhouse, it plays a lot of other stuff. But if we're being entirely honest here, I am in it for Splatterhouse. I love this game, I own it on FM Towns Marty, and I've always wanted an original arcade board, but they're just expensive enough where I never end up doing it. So having an FPGA core that is near to arcade perfect is good enough for me. And the thing about the Namco System 1 core is, unlike something like the Simpsons core, I feel like the majority of the games here, most people have never heard of or never played before, or maybe played once 20 years ago and forgot about. And that is the great thing about these cores. You get so many new games, including some that never left Japan, so you get to learn about them, play them, and experience them in FPGA on your Analogue Pocket, whether you're in handheld mode or docked. And these arcade cores are so good for handheld mode. You basically get to play a game for 25-30 minutes on your commute. You beat the arcade game and you can move on with your day. But there's a ton of great shmups on the core. We've got beat 'em ups, we've got run and gun games, we've got basically everything you would want out of an arcade board, all of the genres basically being represented. And again, this is something that you definitely want to check out. But tell me down below, have you played the Namco System 1 core yet? And if so, what is your favorite game there? Because there's a ton of games, both obvious and deep cuts, that you can check out. For me, it's got to be Splatterhouse is my favorite, even if that is the obvious choice, but I'm always interested to hear what you guys think. And tell me what arcade core you'd love to see come to Pocket as well, because for as many cores as we have, there are a ton more that could still come and are still coming, and hopefully these monthly news updates help you find some more fun to play on your Pocket, because trust me, the Analogue is getting updates all the time, and we're getting so much fun basically every single week. And there are just so many games on Namco System 1, like this tennis game here, that I'm assuming basically no one ever even knew existed. I forgot about this one as well, but while I was playing it, I did end up having some fun. But honestly, if there's one thing that happened in the month of May, at least as far as me is concerned, is getting the Analogizer delivered to my house and being able to play my Analogue Pocket on my PVM. Because honestly, I love playing these devices across pretty much any screen I can possibly think of, including my old CRTs. But that's the news for May. I'll be back in June and I'll have other Pocket videos on Sundays, but if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. But we are done, and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.